Welcome to another episode of the Future Included podcast. My name is Richard Cummins. We're interviewing interesting people all about the future of tech, technology, and all the topics underlying that. Today, I've got Seve. Welcome to the Future Included podcast.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for joining us. I'm keen to unpack your journey, everything you're currently doing in the tech space, the investing space. You do so much. You've invited me onto panels and discussions, and you bring the community together. It'd be great to just give the audience a quick introduction of who you are and what you do.
Cool, epic. Well, thank you so much for having me, man. I really appreciate it. I love coming together for stuff like this because it's the intersection of people's passions and energy and excitement for the future that I think changes things for the better. So that gives you a little insight into who I am. In terms of what I do, I'm the host of a podcast show of my own called Lost and Searching, where we talk to incredible leaders who have been through journeys of their own, for listeners who are maybe feeling a little lost or are searching for answers to find some of those answers towards becoming the best leader that they can be. And this is after a journey of having dropped out of university to co-found my first business, working with some of the biggest companies in the UK as a result of that, and then going from startup to startup, failure to failure. And I kind of described that my journey is basically one of a bunch of failures. I'm kind of one big failure, quote unquote. And that's what helps build this entrepreneurial mindset that I think is so inspiring in the people that I now get the pleasure of working with. So I pivoted into being an operator. I run Color and Tech's entrepreneurship pathway.
Yeah.
I'm on my way out at the moment. So by the time the show comes out, I might not still be here. But this event that we're at today, BTF, is run by a fantastic nonprofit called Color and Tech. And everything on our entrepreneurship stage, our VC and in entrepreneurship community, our accelerators is all me. And so now moving on to the show, as well as to doing some work with founders, either through portfolios or one-to-one as a coach to really build up that leadership mindset, perspective, and discovery.
Incredible journey so
That's
far.
super long. You can
No, that's good as an intro. A very packed intro. But let's talk about failure, right? So failing fast, when I was at Google, is actually a positive, right? And failing many times. If you're not failing, you're not trying, essentially. Speak about your journey so far in terms of startups and failing. Like, what were you doing? What were you involved in?
So I'm someone who I would not describe myself as particularly intelligent. So I've had to learn by throwing stuff and seeing what gets thrown. Sometimes we put stuff out into the world and the world will give us signals about what works and what doesn't. And that is where learning takes place. Yeah. And it's in the margins of the project failing and what you take away. So whether you failed, growth happens. So my first business, I dropped out of university to co-found. We worked with companies like Facebook, Nike, Nando's, AKQA, Sports Direct, Superdry, to bring young people into those companies. I ran programs. I designed focus groups and youth advisory boards and mentoring programs, and it went pretty well until COVID happened. And that was the first run of failure of how do you deal with, is the business in demand? Is the product really good enough to survive this? And actually, do we want to do this? Those are some of the questions we were asking. Those were some of the questions we were asking ourselves. And we decided the answer was no. We didn't want to do it. So we left it behind. Both during and after that, I was also part of a couple of tech startups working in a number of different industries, from fashion to kind of nonprofit and homelessness space. That latter of which is very kind of close and personal to my heart. But both of those failed for different reasons. Yeah. One, because the business model didn't work. The other, because the team was totally wrong. And throughout that entire journey, I put it on myself. I blamed myself for a lot of the failure. And it wasn't until I took some of that learning and started giving it to founders by becoming an operator, by working with them one-to-one. Through Color and Tech, I was for a long time running office hours for founders. It's only after years of going through the small failures that you can sit down with a founder, give them a more holistic view of something, of anything, of their business, investment, the landscape, And then 6 months later, they come back to you and they say, that 60-minute coffee changed my entire business. And I'm like, what? I haven't heard from them for like 6 months. And it's so humbling. It's such an honor to be able to do that. So my journey with failure is one where for a long time I saw failure as a bad thing and I hid it. I've hidden a lot of things from a lot of people until actually fairly recently when I started my show and I started getting more comfortable with stuff like this. This is the really important thing I've learned and to take away from failure is that it, like most things about humanity in our societies, is it's a narrative. Failure is a narrative. And all narratives are like stories. They can be written and rewritten. And often others give us that narrative. Here is your story. Here is your framing, and you must commit to it and be bound by it. How many of our challenges in life are because of those narratives? No, you can't do this because you're this or that, or this is so much harder for you because of these reasons or this problem. And it doesn't mean those challenges don't exist. But by taking control of the narrative, you open up so much freedom to be the one to write your own destiny, regardless of who tries to mess with you. And that's what failure is. It's a narrative. I'm going to play with this narrative, almost enjoy playing with the feeling of here are all the things I learned. It's having failed is a good thing. And you as an investor, an angel investor, will know very well if the person you're speaking to has had it easy their whole life, they've never failed at something, you probably don't want to invest because they don't understand that narrative. You are riding the tide. You're not riding the tide. You are being taken over by the tide. You're allowing the world to dictate where you go until you take some control of that narrative.
Love that.
There's a small extra I want to add to that because a lot of the work I do with founders is in the psychological and is from the mindset perspective. And one of the things that this reframe of failure gives us is it takes us from I am a failure in my being, which is so much more challenging to do anything about, to I have failed at a thing.
Sure.
And that means it isn't in your being. It's not a label I'm taking on me. So many of us, and I think this is having come from the States, I think the British are particularly bad at this. That's my humble opinion. At taking that label and using it to say, that's what I am in my being. And psychologically what that does is it tells us you don't have ownership. You don't have influence. You aren't creating your own destiny. And that is the lowest agency mindset one can have. And a founder is a creator. You're not in survival. You must be a creator. And to be a creator, you have to have that ownership.
Incredible. Lots of quotables there. Failure is a story. It can be written or rewritten, right? That's definitely a big quotable. Hopefully everyone's made note of that. Yourself as an operator, that's how I know you, right? Helping founders, helping angels, people along their journeys and playing that vital role that we need within the industry, right? Pulling people together, making introductions, etc. How has tech enabled that role? Let the audience know kind of like how you run your day to day, how you stay organized, how do you interact with, the founders that you interact with?
I try to keep it as simple as possible. I'm a very people person. So a lot of my past in business, which we don't have time to get into because there are reasons for this and I didn't love it, but it was as an operational person. Being an operator, one of the challenges I've had is I'm actually much more a people person. So being an operator adapts to that. So what I have to do to be able to do that is to leverage the tech to make it as simple to do operational stuff as possible. Here's the link that gets it up. The amount of stuff AI has started being able to automate for me or will be able to soon is just incredible. And all of this stuff, even 2 or 3 years ago, just felt like I couldn't do without some of these things. So stop me if this isn't super useful, but maybe the best example
give some examples for sure.
Is with starting my show. So I've been editing videos for YouTube since I was like 13 as a passion, as a hobby. And now, well over a decade later, almost 2 decades later, things have changed so much. With my podcast show, I record super scrappy, much scrappier than this epic setup we have right now, where I have 2 mobile phones attached to tripods, plugged into Bluetooth lav mics that sit here. I can then put that into my editor. It will do all the audio cleaning up via AI. Some of them can do even camera angle changing
yeah.
for me, massively reducing the editing time, even though I know how to do it. And then after that, everything from writing the notes
Yeah.
to when I post on YouTube,
Yeah.
I'm trying to create an automation so it goes directly onto my website. I don't even have to do that manually anymore. All of it super scrappy and
Yeah.
allows you to do not the more than the bare minimum, but remove so much of the manual that takes you away from what you're great at. And this is, I think, the important part is whatever we are spending, this precious limited resource we
Time.
have,
Yeah.
our time, that we'll never be able to get back once we spent it. Whatever we are doing to reduce the amount of that time spent on the things we either aren't very good at and only do because we have to, or just straight up don't want to do because
Yeah.
that part of the process doesn't fulfill us. The more we can reduce that, the more time we have left on
Yeah.
the things we do love, we're great at. There's a beautiful quote I love from an author named Khalil Gibran, and he says, "Work is love made visible." And I think it's
Another
such a beautiful
quotable.
quote. There you go. Not mine. I can't take credit for
Okay.
it. But and the challenge of so much of our work these days, as knowledge workers, especially, is it opens the opportunity for things that we love even more, but also means there's day-to-day stuff that we don't want to
Yeah,
deal
yeah.
with. And that's what, for me, tech enables is as much removal of that stuff as possible, streamlining. So I have so much more space for the things I love, such as having conversations, working with people one-to-one, running some of the like sessions that I love the
Yeah.
most, and just getting to explore people's growth.
That's what we speak about a lot in this podcast, right? Is the tech for good, and you've highlighted a lot of that, right? Automation, time saving. It should be an enabler for other things we want to do, not a hindrance. What are some of the tools that you use that you want to might want to shout out, or just give some people direction on some tools?
Okay, cool. So none of this, it's not necessarily the techiest stuff. So
Yeah.
it's not like, here's the book. So if anyone wants to do any editing, I've started using a program called Descript. Descript is really interesting. They were the first people, I believe, to allow you to edit video by highlighting text. Now, a few others have taken that. One of the other programs I use is called Opus.pro, Opus Clips.
Okay.
So what I do is my podcasts, I want to put that stuff on TikTok, YouTube Shorts, everywhere, but especially those two actually, because that's where the most organic growth seems to be happening right this second. So what it will do is I put in the YouTube link and it finds the most viral clips and I can post them automatically to social media from there. So I don't even have to go into social media. When I said even a couple of years ago, I felt super held back, it's because I can't stand social media.
Yeah.
Editing, I don't love, but I can do it. Social media, I'd much rather be having this conversation. But I didn't have the money to hire a social media
Yeah,
editor. Now I don't need it. This sounds like a really big plug for Opus Pro, but
Maybe Opus will reach out, man. Yeah, maybe they'll reach out to Seven. Yeah,
but
for real.
it's those kind of things. Some of them integrate with, generative AI, so they can write stuff for you. I love writing some of my own stuff,
You
but
do
it
that
does help
yourself
a
still,
little.
yeah. And I think that's really important, is that balance between creativity and automation, right? There's some things that we will continue and love to do. You love creating your own scripts, you love writing, you love coming up with your own quotables, reading, and I love that so much.
Absolutely.
But then all the boring stuff, like you mentioned, right? Like sitting on the timeline for hours on end, you don't really want to be doing that, right? You want to be in the other realm of things. That's you as an operator. What does the future look like for Seven? Like, what's the next? What's the next foray?
More of this. I love anything to do that, anything that has anything to do with leadership development and discovery. The question of what does it really mean to be a leader, and anything that helps folks discover that maybe the answer is that we all have that leader within, and it's just about bringing
Bring it out.
that person out. And so that's anything that is to do with inspiration, greater focus, connection, just loving this life that we have as much as possible. We're coming into a challenging time in so many ways in the future. Tech looks a bit funky, political spheres look a bit funky, and I think the way we solve it is by showing up with more of this kind of energy. And so anything we can do to bring more of that to the world, I love and want to be a part of. The show that I mentioned, my show Lost in Searching, I started it fairly recently at the time of recording, and that's the primary reason, is I want to bring more of that out into the world. And then to answer your question, from there, looking to bring on more shows and more of this type of thing. Help organizations showcase their people, help founders showcase their people, help accelerators showcase their people.
Brilliant.
I just want to bring more of this energy in.
Incredible. We'll look forward to the future of your journey and the studio that you've set up. We thank Seven for appearing on the Future Included podcast. Until next time, we will catch up with you then.
Well, next time, thank you so much.
Thank you.